Hello, and welcome to this explainer. If you've spent literally any time trying to pick up technical skills online, you already know the drill. There is just this absolute ocean of subpar, outdated, and frankly, completely boring cybersecurity training out there. But today, we're cutting right through all that noise to look at something entirely different. We are pulling back the curtain to examine the structural breakdown of the ultimate cybersecurity training blueprint. We're going to analyze a really fascinating source document, a highly detailed 26-point meta prompt that was designed from the ground up to engineer a premium educational script on cyber attacks explained. So we're not just looking at a syllabus here. We're dissecting the exact architecture of how to teach one of the most complex, high-stakes subjects in the modern world, and finding out exactly why this specific structure is so incredibly effective. Right out of the gate, we hit a massive challenge dictated by this blueprint. It explicitly demands explain everything in very simple English so beginners can understand. Just think about that for a second. Think about the immense, intricate complexity of cyber warfare. We're talking about reverse engineering malware, network penetration, advanced cryptography. To most people, that is essentially a foreign language. Now, take all of that density and try to make it universally accessible to everyone. Honestly, this is the ultimate test of a true expert, because if you cannot explain these high-level mechanics in simple, jargon-free English to a complete beginner, well, you just don't understand the material well enough yourself. There's absolutely no room for gatekeeping here. Okay, let's dive into our roadmap for dissecting this premium course architecture. First, we'll cover the Masterclass blueprint. Second, the ultimate instructor persona. Third, theory, visuals, and labs. Fourth, building a cyber career. And finally, fifth, assessments and future scope.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the Masterclass Blueprint, Engineering the Curriculum. What we're actually analyzing here is a highly structured 26-point meta prompt. The source material basically treats education exactly like software engineering. It is highly systematic, thoroughly debugged, and completely optimized for human learning. This framework is built to perfectly bridge that massive gap between complete beginners and seasoned professionals. It dictates literally everything, from the opening hook explaining why the topic even matters, all the way down to the final exam. By approaching educational content with this level of engineered precision, it guarantees a comprehensive, professional-grade experience that leaves absolutely nothing to chance. Moving right along to Section 2, the ultimate instructor persona, building authority. Look, a curriculum is truly only as good as the person delivering it, right? And I want you to think about this number for a second, 20. This architecture requires a staggering baseline of over 20 years of experience from the instructor persona. So we're not talking about a casual hobbyist here. Think about what 20 years actually means in cyber time. That is an entire lifetime. It means the instructor started working before modern smartphones even existed. They've personally lived through the transition from those simple, annoying email worms of the early 2000s to the highly sophisticated, AI-driven nation-state attacks we see today. That deep, historical context is exactly what gives their teaching absolute, unshakable credibility. But the years alone aren't enough. The framework also requires an incredible breadth of experience. It demands a multifaceted background. First, they've got to think like an attacker, taking on the mindset of an ethical hacker and penetration tester. Then they have to know how to defend the castle as a SOC analyst, cloud security architect, and senior engineer. And finally, they have to be able to clean up the mess and investigate it all as a digital forensics expert and malware analyst. By combining all these disciplines into one single instructor, it ensures the student learns to view digital threats from a truly 360-degree perspective. So contrast those highly technical, pretty intimidating titles with that strict mandate for simple English delivery we discussed earlier. This friction rate here is exactly where the magic of a true masterclass happens for you as a learner. You're getting the immense benefit of an elite cloud security architect's brain, but it's being carefully filtered through the clear, engaging storytelling of a master teacher. The expert is literally forced to distill decades of deep, technical intuition into digestible concepts without losing even an ounce of their professional edge. Which brings us to Section 3, Theory, Visuals, and Labs, the Educational Matrix. Now, picture how this workflow operates. It's essentially an educational matrix. You start with the pure concepts, establishing complete theory, backed up immediately by real-world examples. Then you move to the visuals, mapping out network architecture or attack factors clearly, so the abstract suddenly becomes concrete. And finally, you move to the action, mandating a live lab practical demonstration. This structured journey ensures that you don't just sit there reading about a cyber attack,
You conceptualize it, you visualize its mechanics, and then you actually execute or defend against it in a simulated environment. To really ground that theory in reality, the framework utilizes learning through contrast. It explicitly pairs common mistakes right up against industry best practices. And honestly, this is just brilliant for knowledge retention. Instead of just listing off a bunch of abstract security tips, the script shows you a relatable, common error, like, say, leaving a home office router completely unpatched with default passwords. Then it instantly contrasts that vulnerability with the professional, hardened posture of a zero-trust architecture used by industry experts. By showing you the exact wrong way to do things, the right way becomes infinitely clearer. Let's pivot a bit and look at Section 4, Building a Cyber Career, Beyond the Tech. Now, what's really fascinating about this blueprint is that it proves this isn't just some academic exercise. The framework mandates actionable career training, specifically calling out heavy-hitting industry acronyms, things like CEH, Security Plus, PNPT, OSCP, and CISSP. For those who might not know, these are essentially the gold standard gatekeepers for six-figure cybersecurity jobs. The curriculum connects the technical attacks being taught directly to the knowledge required to pass these specific exams. It's telling you exactly how this theoretical information translates into becoming a highly competitive, hireable professional out there in the real world. Just think about the path this lays out. It maps a complete start-to-finish professional journey. It starts with your daily professional workflow, the actual day-to-day gears of the job. Then, it directly links that knowledge to the exact interview questions you will inevitably face when you're trying to get hired. Next, it outlines realistic salary information, and it caps it all off with a long-term career roadmap. Interestingly enough, it even accounts for different career styles, providing perspectives for both traditional corporate workers and independent freelancers. It's a true blueprint for success, way beyond just the code. All right, heading into our final stretch with Section 5, Assessments and Future Scope, Proving Mastery. This part is absolutely crucial because in the realm of cyber warfare, if you are only studying the past, you are already vulnerable. So, the architecture includes strict future-proofing requirements. The curriculum has to analyze AI tools related to the topic, dissect the absolute latest cyber attacks, and evaluate the future scope of the industry. Cybersecurity is a relentless, non-stop arms race. By forcing the learner to look through those binoculars at tomorrow's AI-driven threats, the blueprint ensures your educational investment doesn't become totally obsolete the moment you finish studying. And finally, how do you actually prove you learned anything? Well, this is not a lesson you can just leave casually playing in the background. Look at the sheer weight of this rigorous finish. A structured summary, actionable homework, a hefty 20-question quiz to test your raw retention, a mini project, and a full portfolio project. This architecture forces you to get your hands dirty. It requires you to actively demonstrate your mastery of the concepts before you can claim you truly understand the lesson. So we've seen exactly what it takes to structure a world-class educational experience from the ground up. From demanding a 20-year expert persona to integrating hands-on labs, gold standard certifications, and rigorous portfolio projects, this blueprint is the absolute definition of premium instruction. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope breaking down this incredible source material has sparked your curiosity to seek out this level of structured learning. Which leaves us with one final, undeniable question. Knowing the intense structure and dedication required to truly defend against digital threats, are you ready for the masterclass of modern cyber warfare?